Welcome to Keto Life Support, where we make your keto life sustainable, fun, and low stress. I'm Kim Howerton, and I'll be coming to you weekly with some of my keto besties to bring you the practical, real-world keto advice that you need. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and even if we do have a doctor in the house from time to time, he or she is not your doctor, and nothing we say on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always check in with a trusted medical professional about your own personal medical concerns. Hello, this is Keto Life Support, and this is Kim Howerton on episode number 71. And on this show, we sit down, we, as in me, as in I sit down with my good friend, Lisa Brounstein, who is a client who's also awesome. She is an actress. She is somebody who's been on Oprah. Can you believe it? Oprah. And she's also somebody who experienced some physical health issues being a very large woman. And she decided to turn her health around with keto. So we get into a bunch of different things, not the least of which is sort of the conflict between trying to be body positive, loving yourself, accepting yourself, and at the same time addressing that maybe there are some things about the way you eat that you want to change and or some things about your body. And so can you do that? And how do you do that and feel loyal to your ideals at the same time? So I found it a very interesting discussion. I hope you enjoy it. And here we go with Lisa. Hello and welcome to Keto Life Support. I am here with a lovely woman, Lisa Brounstein. Lisa, how's it going?
Really good. How are you?
I'm good. Lisa and I have met on this keto journey. She's actually not currently. She was in a round of a program that I did, and that's how we got to know each other.
Yes. It made a huge difference for me, getting unstuck.
Yeah. Being stuck is kind of the worst feeling in the world. I don't know. I have lots of thoughts about it, but being stuck feels so hopeless sometimes. So that's why I like focusing on that topic.
Yeah, absolutely. I was definitely feeling that. And then there's that feeling of, will I be this way forever? Mm-hmm. That fear of, oh no, what have I done wrong?
Oh yeah. I think there's this place where I had the same thing, right? When I got stuck on my keto journey, I kept being like, be grateful. Don't forget where you came from. There was a time when I remember I had lost like 50 pounds and I was like, if I don't lose any more weight, I'm just so grateful that I've lost this 50 pounds and I feel so much better and my health is so much better. But then you kind of forget that and then you feel ungrateful. And so I'm like, great, I'm stuck. I'm ungrateful. I'm like a total loser.
Totally. I was just going to say, for me, this journey wasn't initially about weight loss. I was excited to lose weight and it feels great to have lost weight, but that wasn't my initial reason for starting. My initial reason was as a type 2 diabetic, wanting to get my health in check and really feeling my age.
Yeah.
I'm 55. I just admitted that publicly. And at 55, weighing, 325 pounds is a lot different than it was when I was in my 30s.
Yeah, I hear you. I think for me as well, the thing that finally spurred me to action, having been somebody who wanted to lose weight for several decades, the thought that got in my head that finally made a change for me was, I'm going to die. It wasn't, I want to look different. I wanted to look different, but that was not spurring action in the way that I'm going to die was a real movement causer.
Yeah, I get that. I get that too. I did lose a friend, a very large friend, and she and I were large together. So what happened for me was I was heavy my whole life. I started gaining weight when I was 7. And then my mom started putting me on diets when I was 9. I was an Overeaters Anonymous at 9. There wasn't a lot of serenity for me at 9, That is what it is. But my mom really thought she was doing the best thing for me as somebody who had been overweight herself. And then cut to after being on a billion diets my whole life, I was 30 and I decided to move to Los Angeles. And I had this epiphany one day where I was driving home and I slammed on my brakes at a red light because I wasn't paying attention. And my whole body just started to like jiggle and move and everything. And I got so angry at myself. I was like, oh God, I hate you so much. I mean, I was falling in my car. And I got home and I instantly got on the scale. And then I got off the scale, took off my clothes and got back on the scale. Right?
It must be this outfit.
Exactly. It's the outfit that weighs 200 pounds. And then I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, oh my God, what happened to me? Like, who is this person? Was this how my life was meant to be in this struggle all the time of hating myself? So in that moment, I was like, this is it. I'm going to start loving my body and be grateful for my body. And then I discovered fat acceptance and size acceptance and kind of like the anti-diet movement. And it kind of fueled my denial that being heavy was unhealthy. And it gave me a lot of freedom to live outside, like live a big life, like in every possible way, you know? But again, at 30 and weighing 350 pounds, it was easy. I could get up and down off the floor. I didn't have health concerns at the time. And then as my life progressed, I started having health concerns, type 2 diabetes. So when I moved to Los Angeles and I was all into this being a happy fat girl, I also discovered like dances for big women and that there were actually men who liked big women. And it kind of changed my whole outlook. Like I started to feel happy and sexy. And this was also, I'm going to age myself more, but this was pre-internet or pre the internet as it is now, right? So I didn't have the same kind of input that so many people have now when it comes to everything that the internet gives us now. So I'm at this dance and I meet this woman, big woman, beautiful. And we instantly started talking and instantly just started to dig each other. We had so much in common. She was an actor. I was an actor. We found out we lived 3 blocks from each other. And she became like my friend who I would eat with. And then we were both diagnosed with diabetes at the same time. And I was always concerned about my diabetes, but I didn't really do what I needed to do to take care of myself. She didn't either. And recently she passed away from diabetes. It was like, I was talking to my husband about it this morning. And when she first lost her first toe, I made her a necklace where I cut off one of the toes. We called it the Hang 9 necklace. So anyway, I know, I just think that's funny.
Yeah. Well, it's important to have a sense of humor about things. Yeah. So when at the time she had lost the toe, like, as an example, like, was that kind of the first, because I know this kind of friendship, right? Where you're like joined at the hip and like what happens to them happens to you. And so were you already on your weight loss journey at that point? Or were you still kind of just floating in the space where you're like, this is just how I am?
So at this point, when she first started to lose body parts, I had done some dieting. I had done some low carb, some keto. My highest weight was 385 in 2002. I was on Oprah then and talked about body positivity and loving my body. And I remember even saying to her, I love my body. And she looked at me and she said, you love your body? Like I'd said the most outrageous thing anybody had ever said on national television. And I said, yeah, I love my body because this is the body I have. And that's kind of how I felt all that time, was that I didn't want to waste my life hating myself. So when I go back to my friend, we were both kind of in that same, we don't want to be deprived. We just want to live a great life. So for her, when she started to lose body parts and started to have really bad ill effects from diabetes, I was more cautious with my blood sugar, but I certainly wasn't doing what I needed to do fully. I still had denial for a long time. So
you were on Oprah in what year did you say? 2002?
2002, January 2002.
Okay. And then don't worry, I'm also aged myself constantly. So then
I was 10.
Exactly. I'm of the other school. I'm like, say you're older than you are, because everyone will be like, wow. Anyway, so that was 2002. When were you diagnosed with type 2 diabetes?
I was diagnosed with type 2 in 1998, actually.
Oh, so before then.
Yes. And I always make up all these stories, and I like makeup, but I always look for the excuse of it. So certainly I have a genetic predisposition for type 2. My grandmother had what my mom calls spiky sugar. Diabetes. Yeah. And my grandfather on my paternal side also had diabetes. It was in my cards, but being a 300 and something pound woman who was also a vegetarian for 17 years. And I wasn't a vegetarian where I was eating super healthy. I was like mashed potatoes and gravy for dinner, Taco Bell, that kind of stuff. So anyway, I did try lots of different medications. I never was an insulin dependent diabetic.
Okay.
So come 2002, I was 375 on Oprah. I said 335 because somehow that seemed like better somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway. And then it was April when I did my first kind of low carb journey of that year, 2002.
Oh, right after that.
Right after that. So January, Oprah, April, let's try low carb, I said to my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. And so then it was more Atkins. It was more like eating bars and not being very focused on blood sugar and ketones and being healthy, but more like just watching my carbs.
Why would be a question I have. Like, was it concern over your blood sugars, or was there some part of you that thought about losing weight?
Well, certainly seeing myself on Oprah was difficult. It was very kind of shocking. Now, here's the thing too, I should say, I'm an actor. Yeah. I was playing a lot of the fat parts. I was the fat lady on Carnival. I was super fat on CSI. I was a fat mom in a trailer park, with the whole kind of stereotypical fat lady in a trailer park.
Right.
So that's kind of how I started my career, was the fact I was on Shallow Hal. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I can understand when you're playing a character, there's a certain amount of distance.
Yes.
Because you got makeup and you're playing a role and you're emphasizing a certain angle. But to see yourself just being yourself on TV might have felt a little different.
It was very uncomfortable seeing myself. Very uncomfortable. But then the flip side of that was I really liked what I had to say. I felt kind of inspired by what I had said. And I also have guilt about that because the following year I was at a buffet with my friend and we were like eating all the things. And I remember all my favorite, buffet foods, fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, that kind of thing. And a woman came up to me and thanked me. She said, I saw you on Oprah. And I told my husband, see, it's okay if I don't lose weight. So I have some guilt around that. How I look at it now is that if you can truly be fat and healthy, be fat and healthy. But there's got to be some kind of denial there, because there's no way I could weigh 350 pounds or 385 pounds, or when I started this particular journey at 325, that I could say I was healthy, eating how I was eating and living the life I was living.
Yeah, I get that. It's such an interesting topic, really, because I went through a period of my life as well. Actually, I would say I did not outwardly say like, I want to be this big, right? There was a time in my life where I was like, screw it, I'm big. Like, I have to be happier than I am. Even if I don't love this detail, I have to stop being so miserable and so hateful to myself. And so I did go on like a journey of that. And I think there's a lot of benefit in that, like, because I would at, high 200s, talk to friends who maybe could have lost 10 pounds and realize like I was more okay with myself than they were.
Yeah.
And so what that brought up to me is like, it's all relative. And the sad fact of the matter is just not how many people feel good about themselves, but like how many people just feel terrible about themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's heartbreaking to me. The thing that's always been hard for me is teenagers. Because I know what it was like to be a fat teen, and that misery, first of all, there's just misery in being a
teenager. Yeah.
Period. There's like, that's just part of teenager. Right. So then being a fat teen was hard. It was really, really hard. And I can't imagine what it's like for them now, what it's like now. I mean, for me, every day waking up into a world that said there was something wrong with me that I needed to fix. And if I wasn't going to fix it, then I was really wrong.
Right. It's very challenging. To the listener, I'm going to say we're going to jump around a lot in this call because it's just like having a conversation. But one of the really hard things for me is when people reach out to me who say that, I have 50 pounds to lose. And I'm like, okay, well, like what's going on? What do you have? And they're at what is currently a very healthy weight. Yeah. And, I get that quite a bit. And maybe it doesn't mean they don't have goals, but, I just think there's some part of being, and I don't mean to be sexist to the men out there. I'm sure that you have a similar experience. I'm just speaking from the woman's experience, that it feels like thinking you're fat is like a right of womanhood. Like it's a requirement to be a woman to constantly feel like you should be thinner. Like I have relatives who have teen girls. And I remember one of my relatives told me when her daughter turned like 12, like asked her, like, should I be on a diet? And this child did not need to be on a diet. And the mom was like, well, why is that? Why you have that question? And she's like, I just see that that's what women do. And if I'm, 13 soon, shouldn't I? It's like a bat mitzvah. It's like, wait, is that the boy or the girl? I always get it wrong.
Anyway, bat is girl.
Body's girl.
Bar is boy. Yeah.
Okay, I got it. I'm Jewish and yet I can never remember these things. But it's like this like right of womanhood, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah. I see that a lot in like Facebook groups and keto groups when someone will say something like, I have to lose 50 pounds and I need to lose it by next week. Is it possible?
Yeah.
And you hear
which leg don't you like? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just that desperation just makes hurts me. Like I feel sad for them. Yeah. And because I get it. And even now I have to stop myself from being overly excited about the fact that I've changed how my body looks. And here's the thing too, there are some things about my body now that, wow. I mean, I stretched this body to like maximum capacity. And now I have extra bits I didn't expect.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we've talked about the fact that we both listen to Ethan Suplee sometimes.
Yes.
And he had a podcast about loose skin and nobody tells you to expect it. And it is true. It does exist.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah. 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 The other thing is, that I identify about losing your weight in your 40s and or 50s. It's already a time in which skin is becoming unruly. Yes. And you feel a little out of control about certain parts of your body. Like, what? This never was here. And then to add to that, the fact that you're losing weight at the same time, it can be very challenging to feel positive without your clothes on.
Oh my goodness. Since I did your program, since I did the Unstuck program, I feel like there was such a huge shift in my body. I've lost 148 pounds right now since I started.
Okay.
And I lost 25 pounds with you. So I'd lost 123 pounds.
Okay.
Before your program, and then 25 pounds since. I feel like that last 25 pounds has been the most extreme for my body. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's also because I'm back in the gym, but I'm back in the gym and I did the cut. So like my little side wings are no longer side wings, they're like little flaps. It's so weird.
They're more wing and less cutlet. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I do like wings. So yeah. But what I was saying before, and I think I kind of glossed over it, is that I do have guilt about having lost weight.
Yeah.
I have guilt having lost my friend. I have guilt also about telling people that it's okay to be big.
Yeah.
Because I'm still not sure. There's still a part of me that's in denial. Like, well, maybe it is okay. Maybe it just wasn't okay for me. Now that I've changed.
I totally hear you, because I spent a long time on the inside wanting to lose weight, but on the outside trying to tell people that it's okay and you could love yourself as you are. And, and there's this movement called health at any size, right?
Yeah, it's healthy at any size. Yeah.
I wanted to support, right? Like the idea that you should love your body shouldn't be a radical one. Even, it's like, are your children perfect? No. Do you love them? Yes. Like,
right.
You don't have to require, there's not like an entry fee of perfection to deserve love. And so Like, I believe that for everybody's body everywhere. But the problem is, I feel like we don't get the idea. Like, we're not very good at conceptualizing the idea that you can love something that you want to be different.
Oh,
I don't think we're good at that.
No, like truly unconditional love.
Yeah. But I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, this argument may go completely down the drain in a second, but it just occurred to me that unconditional love means you love that thing, person, whatever, with no conditions. So
Correct.
You love it thin, you love it fat, you love it this, you love it, whatever, no matter what happens, you love it.
Right. Not because of or in spite of.
Exactly. But I feel like so often when we think like unconditional love for being in a larger body, well, then it's not a violation to be in a thinner body. But we feel like it is, because to want to change something, we have this idea in our head that to want to change something, you have to hate it. You have to find it wrong if you don't want that anymore. And I think that's flawed.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting because what I said to Oprah, essentially, what I feel like it is like, can I throw that out? Like what I said to Oprah. Oh, la la.
Right.
Was how could I affect any change in myself? Like, how could I affect any change in myself if I hated myself? Like, I had to choose my body exactly how it is and how it was in order to affect any change.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, I believe this comes from 12-step, which is people are moved by inspiration or desperation. Those are the two reasons that people are moved. I find this to be true. You change because you're inspired to do so, or you change because you're desperate to do so. And I find with weight loss, more often than not, it's desperation that is motivating people, not inspiration. We're not like, I love everything about my body, but that exercise thing they're doing, that bicep looks good on them. So I would like that. Like, I'm inspired by that. It totally happens. There are totally people that work on inspiration, but I find most people work on desperation.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I wanted to say something too about healthy at any size. It's like, I was not healthy at that size, but not just not healthy at that size. I wasn't living a healthy life. And not everyone who is of size gets everything on the Taco Bell menu.
Right.
I was one of those people who did. I could not go to Taco Bell and get 2 things. And here's even saying that Taco Bell, just 2 things is healthy. But the 5 things I got made it unhealthy. Right. If I just got the 2 tacos, that
just
was
2. Yeah.
Just 2. No, but I was always the like, get me 5 things, get me 8 things. I used to do stand-up, and I would say that when I would go to fast food restaurants, I'd always bring a list. Like, this is for Bob. Bob would like a quesadilla, right? He doesn't like cilantro because it tastes like soap, right? Susan wants a taco, right? But it was all for me, and I just want one Diet Coke because,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I have at various times in my binge eating past gotten multiple Diet Cokes just so it looked like there were multiple people that I was going to be serving these things to. And then I had to throw some away. So it's a very, very familiar kind of a story. I think that the health. So when I looked it up, I actually found it was health at any size, though we often say it's healthy at any size. And it brought about a difference for me because I always thought it was healthy at any size.
Yeah. Tell me.
If I think about now, unfortunately, if you go deeper, this is not true, but this is how I have thought about it recently. Health at any size, I would take to mean you should have access to the best possible health, whatever your size is, which means you should be able to work out without judgment. You should be able to put on those, workout stretch pants and go for a hike, and nobody should be an ass to you. You should be able to go to the doctor and they take your concerns seriously because you're allowed to be as healthy as you possibly can in the body you're in this exact moment.
Yes.
And so when I thought about it that way, I was like, I totally support this movement that you should have access to a healthy life regardless. But what kind of was the deeper thing that I kind of, so, and there are elements of that in the movement that I'm like, I 100% support, I'm behind it. That's incredible. But there are these little tendrils like, yeah, that like you don't deserve any judgment. So we can't judge any of your health issues as being bad. Like if you have type 2 diabetes, that's not bad, right? Like there are these elements where it goes a little far into a place, like not a little, I don't mean like a little far, like don't love yourself so much. I mean, a little far in like, but that's just not true. Like having a preventable health problem should be prevented regardless of what size you are.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So then, yes, health at any size. I've had those issues with doctors. I've had that experience. I had a horrific experience trying to get birth control at one point. And the doctor, I'm naked on the table with the little, what is that? Like napkin over my belly. And and she's telling me that if I get pregnant, I'm going to die. And it was like, lady, I'm here for birth control.
Why are we having this conversation?
Why are we having this conversation?
Yeah.
And it's, to be naked, it's so awful to be treated that way. And that concerns me because there are a lot of women of size who will not get treatment because they're afraid. It's like, I'm here for a sinus infection. I don't want to talk about a diet. How would you treat a thin person who came in with a sinus infection?
Right. I mean, you hear these stories over and over and over again. Like, I mean, they make memes about them because it's so ridiculous. Like you're like, you're bleeding from the eyes and they're like, have you thought about Atkins? It's like, or not even Atkins, right? It's like, have you thought about calories in, calories out today? Yeah, it's a big problem. And so there is a movement in the world who would try and help people in that area, I feel is so important. But I also feel it's hard. This is so hard, Lisa, right? Because you don't want to be like, love yourself. No, not that much. Right? Like, don't forget there's something wrong with you. Like, I don't want to be that. But I also feel like so many of these places we think that to love ourselves, we have to find ourselves perfect. And then to find ourselves perfect, we have to pretend.
Right. And then there's also the whole feeling of being deprived, of feeling deprived. And that's also because we live in a world that says we should eat wheat and we should eat corn and it's okay to eat sugar and all of those things. And I'm never going to say I'm not going to eat those things again, but I do know those things make me feel sick. So I choose not to eat them. But there was a time when I would, that was the staple of my diet was all of those things. And then I was sick and then I was fat.
Right. And there's this awful, awful feeling when you're a food addict. And I'm assuming that you can relate. You can tell me, no, I have no relationship to that. This feeling where you can literally be like, you leave the house to run an errand. Like it's not like a lunchtime dinner. Like you're like an errand in the afternoon and you're like, I'm just going to Target. I'm just going to Target. You're literally like, I'm just going to Target. I'm just going to Target. You like pass by the McDonald's and you're like, I'm just going to Target. I am just going to Target. And then you find yourself driving through the drive-through, still repeating, I'm not going to McDonald's. I'm not going, like you're getting more intense about it, but you're literally like rolling down your window to order as you're insisting to yourself, you are not doing this. And then you do it and then you eat it. And then later you get like 30 seconds of release of amazing. And then as soon as you're done eating, you're like overcome with this, like, I felt like I was not fit for a living, that I couldn't even control not going to a drive-through. Yeah. Like out of control.
There's such guilt and there's that out of control feeling. And then there's also that desperation too. Like it's almost like an out of body experience, right? It's like you're in line for me, it was Jack in the Box, right? Okay. And it was, and it was the crispy chicken sandwich and the 3 tacos that you could get for the price of 1.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then I would eat those in the car on the way to yet another Jack in the Box.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So the guilt and the self-flagellation that would come from that would then be like this Mobius loop of then I would just do it all over again. And then I would
because
do it
the
all over
only
again.
thing that would sort of fade that feeling away was literally the amount of time it took me to be eating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just a cycle.
It's one of the things that I have found that's hard for me even now. Like when I hear, like when Dr. Barry says, just eat all the fatty meat you want until you're full. And every time he says that, you eat to satiety, he'll say.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, I don't have that. Like, I don't have that mechanism. I don't have the full mechanism. I don't have satiety. Even now, after 3.5 years of eating this way, I don't have that. You know, I have to know, like, this is my serving. This is what I get to eat, period, the end. Yeah. That's it. I can't give myself the freedom of not weighing my food because, like, now, especially because I know what a serving is and that's what I can have. And it sounds like deprivation, but it's not. There's also some freedom in that now for me, where before I was out of control completely.
Right. I think, you know, what freedom looks like is very dependent on what your prison looked like. And for me, the emotional upheaval of food addiction was a prison of its own, even though counter that with the idea that it was eating whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And there's a deep biological drive within us that was put in us for a good reason, because in our evolutionary history, we would be much more likely to starve to death than overeat. And so we never got much of a chance to overeat. So we're wired to overeat. It's natural to overeat. And I think that there can be some letting go of shame around it to just identify that that's kind of makes a lot of sense why we would do this. We weren't expecting that there would be an entire profession of food chemists who designed food to best act upon these ancient impulses.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard, do you know who Rob Wolf is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had this talk that I saw a couple of years ago where he told us about, I don't remember the maker, you know, it was one of those chip makers. It might have been Doritos or somebody. Yeah. He went to their like plant or talked to their people. I think they invited him to give a talk about, because he talks about like sort of like the hedonic food stuff. I could be totally butchering the story, but this is what I remember. And they were like, our chemists are so excited to meet with you because you get exactly what we're trying to do. And they were like happy about it. He was like, oh, okay. So, but like they told him about like they had invented this one type of product where like it was like the Russian roulette version of chips, where it was like 1 out of every 5 chips was spicier than the rest of them. So it would properly act on the like game centers of our brain where you like, when you reach into the bag, you don't know what you're going to get exactly. And apparently that like just blows your synapses out of the, like, you're just like done. And like, it's just all the bing, 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 all the addiction centers of your brain are just like in. So yeah.
So they gamified chips.
Exactly.
Oh my God. That's such, that's a killer for me. That's like, okay, games, chips, gambling.
I know. Right? The dopamine, it will not be denied.
Yes, all those vices.
but okay, so I want to go back to what was the thing that made you say, because so you're living this life, you're like, there are parts of you that know that maybe some weight loss might be a good idea, but you also don't want to be like mean to yourself and you don't want to deprive yourself, and you're also a food addict. So there's like all these things going on in the background, because I don't think every fat person is a food addict.
No, I agree.
A lot of them are. And so what made you, so you, back in the day after Oprah, you did some Atkins, but you did some like real dirty, crazy, not very well designed Atkins.
Correct.
And then was it like, I gave up on that for a few more years?
Yeah, it was kind of like off and on. Like for my husband and I would do it, then we'd stop. Like I did it again before I got married in 2004, which is hilarious. I lost a whole bunch of weight to get into my wedding dress that was being made for me. Right. So I didn't really have to lose weight to get into that dress because it was being made for me. And at my wedding, I was 310. I weighed 310 pounds. That was 2004. And then for like 10 years, I was just up and down, not seriously dieting, never really getting below 300. So I lived.
Your blood sugar was still relatively under control with what you were doing?
My HbA1c was between 6 and 7.
Okay.
So it wasn't like awful. I got to keep on my toes. My kidney function was good. My eyesight was good. All the things.
That they check. Yeah.
Right. And isn't that funny? It's kind of like every time I'd get those things tested, it'd be like, oh, good. Okay. So I'm still good.
Right.
I can still keep doing this. It's like the smoker who's like, well, George Burns lived to 100.
Right.
I was waiting.
I once had a boss who used meth recreationally.
How?
Yeah. I don't know. But he assured me one day, I was like, I don't think I wanted to hear this at all, that he got his teeth cleaned like every 3 months because I guess I got meth will really screw up your teeth. But he was like, I am on the teeth thing. So we're fine. And I only do it when I go to Vegas, which is only once a month. And like, he was telling me these things because he was like, I know you're very worried about me. And I was like, okay. But yeah, I get it. That place where you tell yourself the right kind of lies so that you can keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. It's that rationalization, like a good dose of rationalization a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what ended up happening was my husband and I moved here to a little house in 2014, still maintained around 350, 325. And then it was February 2018, when we decided to make the change. We had just lost our dog, of all things, right? And so we'd spent 5 weeks losing her, which was like the worst 5 weeks of my life. And we also spent those 5 weeks eating all the things, right? And then when she left us on January 19th, we were just in this downward spiral. And that was when it was like, go to Taco Bell, just get me the right side of the menu. I'll just take one of each and then 2 of the Mexican pizzas. I mean, it was just bad, but I was like kind of feeding that emotion, kind of like trying to feel something that wasn't like anguish and despair.
Yeah.
And then after doing that for about 2 weeks, I said to my husband, you want to try keto again? Like, do you want to just like try it maybe for real this time? And we started February 5th and joined the gym February 6th, 2018. And it just kept on. It's like, it just worked. We both felt better. I felt better. I started to notice changes in my body that felt really good. Because one of the things I discovered when our dog was dying was that I couldn't get up off the floor. I'd gotten down on the floor in the hallway to like snuggle with her and then realized, oh no. I can't get up. Like, didn't even consider that I couldn't get off the ground. So that was an impetus as well to keep doing this. I started doing fat yoga when I started this, and that was fun, and learning to get up and down off the floor. That's still one of my goals, by the way, is to be able to get off the ground without using my hands.
Oh yeah. That's a big one.
That's a big one. That's my next big physical goal. At the time was just get off the floor without calling 911. That was
right. That's goal 1.
That was goal 1. Didn't have to like wait for my husband to come home to get me off the floor. So yeah, that's when my journey started. And it was, watching Dr. Barry on my iPad on the gym, on the treadmill, every day I would do like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And if I could go faster than 2 miles an hour, I felt like it was a miracle. And now I'm up to almost, over 3.5 miles an hour at an incline of like 13, no problem. So that certainly wasn't in the cards for me in 2018.
Right. Yeah. And so you've gone on this journey, you lost quite a bit of weight on that path, and then your weight sort of stayed steady for a while. And I remember you saying maybe there was part of you that were like, maybe this is just the size I am. Yeah. 2020 was, not like it just happened to me, 2020, but 2020 was not great. And I pretty much was up and down the same 15 pounds. So I still ate a ketogenic diet. But, a handful of macadamia nuts or 2 wasn't a recipe for weight loss. It certainly kept my blood sugar good. My last HbA1c, I think, was like 5. I think that's what it was in February, it was around 5. But I wasn't losing any weight last year. I was just up and down. And I thought, so I tried carnivore in the beginning of the year. I thought, Dr. Barry keeps saying, eat to satiety, all the fatty meat. No, so it just did not work for me. I did it for about a month and a half. And it just was like, no, I miss salad. But I will say too, this is something I've discovered. I can't eat salad. Salad makes
me feel bloated and uncomfortable.
Okay.
So, and I think that's something too. I'm all over the place, but I think
it's all right. This is how my show goes.
Okay, good. Something I've discovered in these past 3.5 years is I have to be willing to stop and say, this doesn't work anymore, and try something else. Because for a while there, I mean, every day in 2020, I had a giant salad for lunch. Mm. So then when I stopped eating giant, because it's fun and it's tasty and it's,
right.
Here's the truth, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a mental thing for me. It's like, what can I have the most of? Mm-hmm. And salad felt like a thing. I could have a giant bowl of salad and put some meat and some cheese and some vegetables. But I felt like crud afterwards. Not the word I was going to say, but I felt
I understand.
awful.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you. I think that's something that I wasn't willing to do until I found keto either, which is kind of the hard thing of making a decision based on your health or your feeling or what's going, like denial is not necessarily a good trait for health gains, right? And so you have to be able to say, this is not working. Yeah. What I am doing is not working.
Yeah. I mean, when I started this keto journey in February 2018, I would have scrambled eggs for breakfast and a giant mug of coffee with heavy cream and Splenda, powdered Splenda every day. And then I started hearing how bad Splenda was for you. And okay, so it wasn't that Splenda felt bad for me. It was that it had maltodextrin in it. So that was the thing. It's like, well, that comes from corn. I shouldn't have corn. So I cut out the powdered Splenda and was using liquid Splenda, liquid sucralose. That somehow seemed okay. But then I started to think, well, maybe it's just too much heavy cream. So then I cut the heavy cream out. So anyway, cut to now, I'm drinking black coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Who am I? How did that happen? Right? But thanks to you, I am having some milk in my coffee in the afternoon, my afternoon cup of coffee.
Oh, yeah. I told you about that new company or that new line of milk.
Yeah. Oh, it's magic. It is magic. But it's funny. I still get excited about food.
Well, I think that's it. Like, it's funny, when I first was like, I should start a blog when I started keto, the first URL I bought was actually Foodie Down, right? Like, because I identify as a foodie, and how do you do that? And, one of the things that I struggled with that is similar to your sort of Oprah issue is that I thought I was a hedonist. Right. Like I was like, I am a hedonist. I do things for pleasure. And, and then one day I was like, you are so full of shit, Kim. Like, you live in a body that feels awful almost all the time. Like, how dare you say your life is about pleasure if you don't live in a body that feels pleasure, except for like 30 seconds while you're eating. And so, so I kind of reframed it in my brain that true hedonism should be about living in a body that feels good, not about a temporary passing through experience. But got a little off track there. But
that's good.
Was your husband on board with the change? Because you met him when you were very, very heavy.
Yes, I did. And it's so funny. He even said to me today, I'm so happy you're so healthy. Like, he's just happy that I'm healthy. And he loved every inch of me at 385. He loves every floppy inch of me now. In fact, it's maybe telling on him and me. But the other day he walked into the bathroom while I was taking a shower, because he's still working from home until I don't know when. So he walked into the bathroom and he's like, I don't know what you're complaining about. You look great. I was like, thank you. I was like grabbing all my bits. Don't look at me. But I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate. And, and that was something my girlfriend used to always say to me before was, you have John. But you have John. And I thank my lucky stars every day I have him. I never thought this was going to be in the cards for me, ever.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So back to your friend.
Yeah.
Did you lose her before you started this last leg of the journey?
No. So in 2018, when I started this, she was in and out of the hospital a lot. Her kidneys were failing. She had breast cancer. It was just a lot. It was a lot. And I remember going to see her at Cedars, and I'd only been doing this probably for about 6 months. And she said to me, she cursed and said, you're getting so skinny. And I was like, dude, I'm hardly skinny. I'm hardly skinny. And it's like now when I put on a pair of size 12 jeans, I think, oh my God, what would Maureen say? What would she say? Oh, so no, she passed away the day after her birthday in 2019. So December 29th, 2019.
So sorry.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah. And, when we talked about this before, and you've mentioned, that you feel guilty. It's interesting. You can tell that you can tell a lot about a person. I was going to say, you feel guilty about the people that you told it was okay to be heavy, but at the same time, like on Oprah, you have Oprah guilt. But at the same time, you kind of feel guilty that you couldn't save your friend.
Yeah, I say it's like survivor's guilt.
Right.
Like she and I were in the trenches together of each getting our own bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken and sitting on my couch and watching TV together. And I think about that a lot. But I also think when I was supersized, there was nothing that anybody could say to me that would have made the difference. It wasn't like someone would say to me, you're going to die in 10 years, so you need to do something now. That wouldn't have helped me. If anything, that would have made me want to go eat more because it would have sparked some kind of an emotion in me, some frustration or some anger or something that I would need to quell with a bean and cheese burrito.
There is a certain thing. I don't know if you feel this way. Like the only coping skill I had was food.
Yes.
That was my only coping skill in the world. And so anything went poorly, mostly poorly. Food was my answer. And so it's been a bit of a challenging road not having that crutch. How have you dealt with that?
It has been challenging because I used to always say that food my whole life, ever since I was a child, was either a punishment or a reward. You do good in school, do well in school, you get a special treat. You do poorly, you don't get that special treat. You don't get dessert. You don't get chips with your sandwich. So now how I deal with it, I think mostly is exercise. So that was why last year was so hard when they took the gym away. Because for me, going to the gym, there's something about the whole event of it for me that has been like a breakthrough. I mean, and every day, even today now, I hate going. It's like I say, I don't want to go today. And then I drive there anyway and go. And and maybe it's endorphins. Maybe that's just what it is. Maybe it is as simple as body chemistry that I feel so good after I go that I don't want to drive through a fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
But I still have the addiction. I think I told you this recently. I wanted to add berries into my diet. And by diet, into my lifestyle. I thought, I need berries. It's summer. I'm going to get some blueberries and some blackberries and some strawberries. And the first night, it was super easy. I put them in a little dish and I weighed them out and it was delightful. And then the next night, I did the same thing, but I just tossed a couple more in after I weighed them. And then the next night,
that one where you take the time to get the scale out and you weigh them while you're eating them out of the container unweighed.
Yes.
You're like, what am I doing?
Right. Who am I kidding? Right. It's not like I'm cheating someone. Like
your body doesn't care what you put in your tracker. Your body cares what you put in your body.
Yes.
Yeah.
But but then after like a week,
so
real. And so then after a week, it was like, it went from being the cute little prep bowl, little clear glass prep bowl from Williams Sonoma to being the giant soup bowl that I was just filling with berries, like munching them down. And there was it became a habit. It was no longer like nutrition and a nice little treat. It became a drug. It became my heroin or my meth. Yeah. And I would even test my blood sugar after to make sure. Okay, well, my blood sugar is still only 115. So that's okay then. So it's okay.
But
it was like,
all the excuses.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And you know what? It might even not have had an impact on your weight. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it had an impact on your addiction.
Exactly.
Or it was part of your addiction.
Yeah. So now I don't have them right now. I have to wait a little while. And I'm okay with that. It doesn't feel like deprivation. Now, this is something else I got from you. I'm looking at a lot of this like an experiment. So now I can weigh myself, and I'm still weighing myself a lot because I am still cuckoo. That hasn't transformed.
I can't fix crazy. I'm sorry. That's not in my job description.
Well, it's a good thing because it's still crazy.
Let's call it personality.
Yeah, but it's information. So every day when I get on the scale, it's like, oh, look at that. That's fascinating. There's no way I gained 2 actual pounds yesterday.
Right.
But I did have a hard workout and I did eat an extra whatever. I did make that chocolate shake last night. So that milk chocolate shake, just so you know.
Yeah, with the Equip.
Oh, I haven't gotten that yet. I need to get that.
Oh, I'm terrible at telling people. It's Equip protein powder. It's a protein powder made just from beef protein isolate and some, it's not bad ingredients, but I love it.
It's in my cart. It's in my cart.
Okay,
I just
you got it.
the trigger. Yeah.
And the milk, what's the brand of milk? I can't remember, but
zero
sugar milk.com is where you can find it. Yeah.
It's Maple Hill, I think.
Maple Hill. Yes, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
It's magic.
Yeah, but then the thing is, and I know, and I do the same thing in my life. 5.5 years keto or wherever I am. Like I weigh and measure how much of it I have. And if I notice that I'm having more than I plan to in the day, then I have to evaluate if I buy it again.
Right. And so for me with this, like with the chocolate shake, because I made it the other night for my husband, we went to dinner and he's like, remember when we could go get ice cream? And I said, I do remember. I said, I can make us a shake tonight. And so I made us a shake.
Yeah.
But then the next day, all day, I was like, can we have shakes again tonight? It's like, no, we can't have them again tonight. It has to be a once in a while thing. It can't, as soon as something becomes a habit, it can't be, it's not a good thing.
Yeah. And, that's the reality of life. It's interesting getting more and more into, friends who are bodybuilders or people who are bodybuilders. Like we're all bodybuilders. The body we're choosing to build is just slightly different. And so I think there's a lie in our society that most people don't have to pay attention to what they're eating. I mean, there are a lot of people who aren't paying attention to what they're eating, but there's this idea that that's like our birthright. Like we should be able to be totally unconscious around food and just eat what pleases us. It's like,
intuitively.
Why? Like what? How did this ever start to be a reality that we thought was the right way? Like, no, like that's normal and everything else is disordered. It's like, but then like 95% of us aren't normal. That can't be right because that doesn't understand what normal means.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so how is it being an actress now that you're not, you're more like the funny, not, what are you now? Right? Is that the problem?
Yeah, it is a problem. So last year before the lockdown, I had an audition and I hadn't gotten new headshots yet. And so I get to the audition and the casting director walks up to me holding my headshot and he said, "This is not you." And I said, "Yeah, so I've lost a little bit of weight." And he's like, "You lost a lot of weight." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you still want to see me?" He's like, "Well, you're here. We'll see you." So they still put me on tape. I knew there wasn't a chance I was going to get that. So I did get new headshots at the beginning of last year. And I did have a few auditions over the summer, online kind of auditions, but we have to reevaluate. Now I need to get new ones again because I'm 40 pounds down from my last headshots. And I don't know, I'm more girl next door, or actually I guess mother next door or best friend or secretary. I'm no longer the carnival fat lady. And that's so funny too. When I did Carnival, I remember I was sitting in the makeup chair and one of the producers came in and he looked at me and he said, "You're not fat enough." And I was like, "Oh my God, don't take the part away. I'll eat. I'll go home and I'll eat. I'll do whatever I can do." It was just such a strange thing. I even said to him, "Could you call my mom and tell her that I'm not fat enough?" Because no one's ever said that.
Let's get you on tape. Yeah, it is. I haven't told the story much, but Dr. Barry got this story out of me recently. And so it's going to be on the podcast at some point so people will hear it. But, I was an actor when I was a kid. And I started theater classes when I was 7 because that was the youngest they would accept me. Like I was pestering my mom to start. So I was in after school programs and always doing theater. And then by the time I was in high school, I wanted to do more. And I don't know if you know ACT, American Conservatory
Oh, yeah.
Theater. I was in their like young actors program and, all this stuff. But the reality is, as a heavy teenager, I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the constant attention on my weight. It's also tall and older, which is a terrible, like I looked older and I was tall. And that's not a child, like a child actor can't look older than they are. And I did. And so, it was all these problems. And I just gave up. I gave up on acting because it was just, I hated myself already. And it just was constantly pressing on the sore. And so I'm really interested in the fact that you, instead of running from that, you kind of embraced it and said, this is who I am and I'm going to be this person.
Well, it was 1995 when I had that epiphany about that it was time to love myself. It was also time for me to quit my job in publishing and living in San Diego and move to LA and take the leap. It was like a big leap of faith. It was like, it's time. Because I felt like as a fat woman, I was always waiting for someday. Like that is right. So someday when I lose weight, I will fill in the blank. Right. Someday I'll be an actor. Someday I'll live in Los Angeles. Someday I'll get a tattoo. Someday, as soon as
and I can understand that 30 kind of looming, you're running out of as many some days.
Yeah. And then, and that as well, now too, I'm feeling like you never know when your someday is up, because I've lost a lot of friends over the past few years. Like I did just talk about my one girlfriend, Maureen, who I lost, but I just lost another friend a few months ago. And it's kind of like this list of my girlfriends who we were all of size and we were all like, we are women, we are fat, hear us roar, ta-da, in our bikinis at the beach kind of women. And now I'm like the one standing. So life's too short.
Yeah. And, I'm not the coach that tells people that they have to be a size 2, right? Like, I think there's a certain level where it's pretty much vanity, but I don't mean that as an insult. There's a healthy weight, and then I still want to weigh less than that, and you go and do whatever you want to do. Like, if that's your goal, own it. But I feel very strongly that there is a point at which we are unable to maintain moderately good health. And that number is different for every person. Like one person there could be, I'm not denying there might be a healthy 300-pound person out there. But for most of us, there is a number where that has diminishing possibility.
Yeah. There's someone I follow on social media who's kind of anti-keto and anti a lot of this stuff. But he recently posted something that said, how many fat 90-year-olds do you know? And it kind of struck me because part of me was like, F you. But then part of me was like, yeah, how many fat 90-year-olds do I know?
Right.
Not many. It's kind of like it's the unicorn. It's like the George Burns of smokers,
Right. But at the same time, I will say, like, what do we call fat?
Right.
Right. Like there are a lot of 90-year-olds out there, I'm sure, who've lived their life in a body that could maybe be objectively considered 10 to 20 pounds over some sort of aesthetic ideal.
Sure.
But they're not in an XXXL. There's a range.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know that it really matters that much, but I think there's something that happens where when we start talking about the desire to lose weight, we don't also talk about why. Like the why. Like for you, it was all about your health. And so that's your number one focus. But for a lot of people, myself included, it was all about the weight when I started to try to lose it. Then I realized, oh no, this is about much more. And so I think it's important. I don't know that you have to do this because you started from that focus, but I think for a lot of people, and I see this in both my clients and in the world at large, that it's important to always remember that you're not designed to be on a diet for the rest of your life. There are seasons to life. There are experiences to life. Being unhappy with your body is not a prerequisite for your future.
Right. Sure. And like right now, I'm not dieting. Right now, I'm maintaining for a little while just to see what I can do, what I can eat, what I can get away with, and still ketogenic, still watching my carbs. 2 years ago, this week, because I keep getting memories in Facebook, we were in Scotland. My husband and I, and we were not eating a ketogenic diet. Now, we lost a bunch before then, but we went and ate all the things because it was Scotland. And we lived our lives and came back and went right back on. So it's possible. It's possible. Life is not always a diet and full of deprivation.
Right. And I think there's a lesson to be learned about the difference between conscious eating and deprived eating.
Yes.
Like that we often don't make a distinction. We think, oh, if I'm conscious, I'm going to be deprived. Well, because we would rather not be, conscious. But, I think that there's a place where you can get to where you can be conscious about food, but it doesn't have to look like deprivation.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I've been doing an experiment recently where I was like, let's see what more carbs does. Like, I was like, let's see. And I like kind of kept going up. And like, it was all like salad and there was some keto ice cream involved, but it was like, let's keep bumping the needle and see. And I got my carbs up pretty high. And at a certain point, I was like to 100 grams or so. Oh, and wow. I was like, yeah, I know, total, mind you. But, net would have been like 30. I mean, the net and the total thing is all a thing. Yeah. But I was like, is this better? Do I like this better? Does this feel better? Like, I got really curious about the experience and I was like, no, I don't like this better. Because to do that, to raise my carbs that high, I had to lower my fat. Oh. Right? Yeah, because you can't just add things and expect the same result, right? It has to be a swap. If you're experimenting, you can't, you can, but then that experiment is different. And I was like, I miss my fat in a way that the carbs are not making up for. So, but that was a conscious experiment decision I got to make, which is just my 5 years ago self could not comprehend that was in any way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm getting new headshots probably next week.
Okay. Exciting.
Super exciting. Getting my hairs colored, what's left of them. And then,
I know the hair.
Yeah. Hair. That's something. I think truly, I do follow a lot of fat women, supersized women who are like influencers. And I just want to secretly ask them, just tell me, like, what do you eat and how do you feel really? Like, I'm just curious because I know for me, I was in denial. I was in total denial, eating how I was eating and feeling how I was feeling. Always in pain. Yeah.
Oh, so much pain.
So much pain, so much physical and mental, right? Just the full on anguish. So, but I just wonder, I'm so curious. It feels a little bit like a car wreck, like a train wreck. Like I'm watching these women and I'm so like, just tell me. I don't know. And I don't know that you need to use that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard because there's a part of you that's like, am I just putting like artificial lines and judging like, oh, but she's normal fat and she's fat and she, it's like, where do you draw those lines? But
she looks like I looked, but she doesn't have the same belly that I did. So maybe she's not eating all the dairy that I ate because I was eating a lot of cheese. It's all make believe. It's all made up. It's like, I don't know what's true and what's not. And that's why I still feel like I'm in such denial. I still feel like I'm in denial. And I think that's why I have serious body dysmorphia. Like when I look at pictures of myself, like when I do like, oh, it's Transformation Tuesday. And I pull out a picture from before and then a picture from today. And it's like, I don't recognize either of those women, certainly not as myself. Like even while we've been talking and I see myself in the corner down here, it's like, who is that? It's very strange.
What would be, I don't know if this is at all part of the podcast, but it would be interesting. I don't know if you have any artistic leanings.
Kind of.
But it might be interesting to draw yourself as you think you look.
Oh.
Even if it was very abstract, but like, who feels like you?
Well, Dr. Howerton, that's fascinating.
I don't know. Just a thought, because I get that. Like, that's happening to me as I'm getting older. Like I'm 45 next month and I don't know how that happened. I don't know at all. And I see myself and I'll I'll take a picture and I'll see myself in the mirror. Now, when I'm looking myself in the mirror, it feels like me because I'm there in the mirror and I'm moving and it's animated. But then I'll see a picture of myself and I'll be like, huh, like the eye skin or the loose skin under the neck, the waddle. And like, I can't for the life of me take a picture where it doesn't look like I have a double chin. And I feel like I need like a disclaimer on all my pictures that says that's not fat, it's loose skin. And then I smile and my eyes disappear. You know, it's like, it's so hard on ourselves, but now it's like therapy for me. But there's this place where, like aging that I'm like starting to age. I mean, I'm always aging, but I'm starting to get in that place where I'm more than middle, like I'm definitely fully middle-aged. It's a total mind F to see that.
I am the first age I remember my grandmother being. I was 5 years old and I said, Grandma, how old are you? And she said, 55. And I remember thinking, oh my, 55? That's so old. And I'm like, holy cow, I could be a grandma.
I know. And then I have friends who have children and I see the pictures of the children and I think, I'm that age.
Yeah.
Like they're like 25 and I'm like, I am not that age. I am their parents' age. I am not that child's age. Yeah. Like, and when I'm in person with them, I'm like, oh yeah, they're a lot younger than me. Like the interaction makes it clear, but somehow the pictures are very confusing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
We talked about the fact that you really liked the message you gave to the world on Oprah. Given the last 20 years have gone by, like if you were to redo Oprah, what message do you think you'd want people to hear?
I would still say that I love my body because I've lived a pretty amazing life. And certainly, I mean, I live in a tiny house and I don't have a lot of money and I'm still not an everyday working actor, but it's been extraordinary. And I feel very fortunate to have lived the life that I've lived. And I've lived this life in this body. And so while my body is not perfect, it's perfect exactly how it is and exactly how it isn't. So I would still tell her that I love my body. But I would also say that I would invite people to look at their own lives and look at where they're in denial and really have like a moment with themselves and say, am I really being my healthiest best? And what can I do for myself to live my life as healthy and as best as I can? Yeah. And also, I would tell all the chubby girls that it's okay. There is no shame, and take care of yourself because this is it. This is it. This is the body we have.
Totally. I think that's such an important message. And I think that the message gets watered down, right? Because so often people will say to fat people, well, I'm just worried about your health. Oh. And you're like, you are lying. Because they don't. Me so mad. They don't. Like, you don't care about that other person's health over there. And they're clearly got some problems too. But yeah, so I get that the message gets garbled by people thinking it's more acceptable for me to disapprove of you by telling you that I'm worried about your health. But there are legitimate people and legitimate reasons to be worried about your health. It gets messy in there. Oh,
I've had that. Having breakfast with girlfriends, you just totally I'm triggered, but I was having breakfast with girlfriends 15 years ago and I had ordered the bagel plate. It was like just this mess of food. And I was like putting food in my mouth. And my friend said to me, I'm worried about you. You know, she leaned across to tell me how worried she was about me and my weight. And it was like, I've got cream cheese on my chin and locks in my teeth and all that. And I was like, what?
Is this really the best time for you to bring this up?
Right. And it was just such shame and such what a horrible, horrible moment in my life. And no, I don't believe she cared about me or worried about me. It was just that, sorry. I don't have an end to that.
No.
Frustrating.
It is very triggering because people feel like it's a remaining acceptable way to fat shame somebody, but hide your shaming in what, was wearing the clothing of concern, all the while, yes, at a certain point when somebody gets very, very thin, people are concerned, but it is just as likely that many people in the world have health issues going on that don't get the I'm worried about your health talk.
Ugh, it's just so awful. And the whole that somehow it's okay to shame people is
Right.
wildly, wildly frustrating and upsetting for me.
Do you think it's ever okay for somebody to talk to you about I'm using this sort of the global you. Like, is it ever okay to approach somebody about their weight, like under any circumstances?
I suppose if you go to a gastroenterologist and say, I would like to talk to you about my weight, then yes, I think that's appropriate. But I think stranger on the street or even a friend, it's tough because, right? Like I say, could I have said something to Maureen that would have made a difference? Yeah. Right. I know for a fact that there's nothing anybody could have ever said to me that would make a difference. And believe me, my mom tried. So I don't know. But then there's that whole thing too of now when people say to me, oh, you look so great. I always feel like, yeah, but it was a crying shame about how you used to look. Right.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's such a double-edged sword. The whole everything about life is that way. But yeah, it's hard not to hear the unsaid follow-up, right? Like,
yeah,
when people say how great you look, it is on some level, but at the same time, you so want to hear how great you look at the same time. Like, it feeds something, but there's always something more.
Yeah. So to your question, is it, I don't know if it's ever okay.
Yeah, I've yet to come up with a time when it's okay to initiate the conversation, right? Like, if somebody says to me, hey, Kim, you look amazing. How did you do it? Hey, Kim, here's my issue. I mean, I do it every day with people in my job when they're like, these are my problems, fix them. But I would never go up to somebody and say, you have problems we must fix. I can't think that I would say that.
I know for myself, I would often feel like I needed to apologize for my size. So I would say something like, oh, I've lost 10 pounds, or, oh, I've been thinking about going on low carb again, or almost like I was looking for that kind of positive, oh, you're a good girl, kind of pat me on the head and tell me I'm okay. There was a part of that for me for a long time. I don't think that ever really went away completely. And maybe that was part of the whole I love my body thing. Well, now I feel like I'm having therapy, but maybe that was that too. Maybe.
I think sometimes we open a conversation, some of us, it's another side to that place where we tell a joke about ourselves so no one else can say something mean about us. We're gonna lead on a joke so that, like, the elephant is now exposed in the room and no one else has to expose it.
Yeah.
But I think we can also do that in a variety of ways, like, I love my body before anyone can say anything, or I'm on a diet before anyone can say anything. We're like preemptively setting the tone around the conversation around us because we are terrified of somebody else setting the tone.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was thinking as you were just saying that, something that I'm noticing now is that I spent a lot of my life concerned about where I would fit, how I would fit. If I got to a restaurant, right? If I got to a restaurant, were there only going to be booths? If I got to a restaurant, would they seat people around me and then I couldn't get out? Like, I'd have to search the room to make sure I knew the exit. Like, how was I going to get out of here? Would I fit by those people? Flying for sure was always a thing. I needed 2 seats, up until recently on an airplane. So now there's a lot of my life that I don't have to think about that anymore. And also now people don't know me that way. I almost feel like I should wear a sign that says, I used to weigh almost 400 pounds because I'm just average now.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah. And there's a way that you want to lead with, I have lost X pounds, because you don't, I don't want to put this experience on you, but there's this part of me that wants to be like, I know I'm not super thin, but you should have seen me before, right? Like, there's this way that I want to be more impressive instantaneously than I am, which is a way that, like, those before and afters can be so impressive. But me at Target at 4:00 in the afternoon is usually a little bit schlumpy. And but it's to be average is weird.
It's weird.
It's weird.
It's weird. I was helping a woman at Aldi, of all things, put an umbrella in her car. And she's like, oh, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And I said, oh, it's no problem. I was just going to the gym. And she says to me, you are fit. And I thought, oh my God, say that again. A stranger just told me I'm fit. It was the craziest thing I'd ever heard in my life.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That. But it's good. It's good to say these things out loud, to talk about the weirdness of being what you used to think of as normal. And then to realize you're not sure there is a normal, but apparently this might be it, but who knows? But it's a place where because I the same as you, right? I've been battling my weight since I was 8. So I've never been an adult who wasn't in a fight for my body, with my body. And so it's weird transiting the world in a body that, well, it's not it's average and it's weird.
Well, I think you and I are similar in that. I have a feeling you and I were like the whole school thing. I don't know about you, the whole, I was smart. I was a smart kid. Right. And so that kind of set me apart because I got to be in the special classes, and then being as big as I was, that kind of set me apart. And now it's like, I've kind of lost the things that set me apart. Right. I get to just be faced with, I'm just like everybody else. But the truth was, I think I always was just like everybody else. We're all just human beings.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember, this is going to be weird. I was 12 or 13. No, I was 13, 14. I was just in that early teen years. And my dad is very straight-laced lawyer, not the emotive parent. And my mom was somewhere else, wasn't at home. And I was just in tears. I was just sobbing. I remember being on the staircase sobbing. And my father was like, what is wrong? What he knew he had to say something. He's like, what is it? And I was like, I just realized I'm going to grow up and be just like everyone else. And I was like, I want to be special. And my dad sort of patted me and said, yeah, I think everyone feels like that. And I just instantly stopped crying because I thought, that might be the worst thing you could have possibly said to me. That I'm not even special now. That I have the exact same feelings that everyone else has when I want to be special. And now as an adult, I'm like, he was totally right. And I totally get it. But I remember I was like, well, there's no help here. But yeah, this sort of desire to I think the thing was I felt lower than everyone else. And so I had to feel like I had potential to be better than everyone else. And then kind of coming into the realization, we're all kind of the same, and we all want to be something, and we all have dreams and hopes, and we all disappoint ourselves. And that is the beauty of life, that we're all in it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like we got somewhere good here, Lisa.
I think so too. I feel kind of like I was all over the place, but I was not being a very good leader in this. I'm like, and then this other thing over here. So, but that's the way it And when I was 5.
Exactly. But, I think those of us who are like us will appreciate this conversation.
I hope so. I hope it makes a difference for someone.
I hope so too. All right. So I will see you soon. How can people find out more about you if they want to follow you on the socials or something?
So if they want to follow me on the socials, there's 2 ways. I'm Lisa Brounstein, just my name, Lisa.
I'll put a link in so they get the spelling.
Okay. So right, Brounstein. And then in my infinite wisdom, when I first started this, I thought, this is like I'm taking a different fork in the road. So my handle for my keto journey is yet another fork in the road with an underscore between each word. So It's kind of a pain, but if you will link below, then people can find me.
I will link in the show notes to find you. So they can find your main profile, they can find your keto profile, whatever. And then you can give me anything else you want them to have, and we'll go there.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. All right. This was amazing.
Thank you for coming on. Super fun. And I will see you soon.
You will.
All right. Bye, Lisa.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Keto Life Support. Want more information? Want show notes? Want to suggest a topic? Just head over to ketolifesupport.com. That's where all that kind of thing can go on. By the way, I have a request. If you could go to your podcast host and hit subscribe, we would really, really appreciate it. And what would be even more awesome is if you could write a review. And what would be even more awesome than that is if you could write like a really flattering review. Just asking, you do you.